Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the A side. I'm your host, Riley, and today I'm going to be bringing you a review of the new Trippie Red album, his rock album, Neon Shark. Now, there was a point in time where when I heard of a rapper making a rock album, it would fill my heart with dread and give me cold chills down my spine with flashbacks of albums like Speed and Bullet to Heaven by Kid Cudi or Hard Pill to Swallow by Vanilla Ice. And if you've never heard that album, it's Vanilla Ice's new metal album. It's one of the worst things ever made. Steer clear of it. But that all changed about mid last year over the summer when an album called Tickets to My Downfall came out. And this was Machine Gun Kelly's rock album. And he enlisted the help of Blink 182 drummer Travis Barker to produce and drum on the album. And the album itself turned out really good and was also very successful on the charts, being one of the best charting rock albums in a very long time. And here we are now. Trippie Red follows in MGK's footsteps with this new album, Neon Shark, which is also produced by Travis Barker and has Travis Barker drumming on it. As a result, the drums on this album are just amazing and epic throughout. He is one of the all-time great drummers. And fear not, because this album is not just a ripoff of Tickets to My Downfall. I actually think Neon Shark is a lot more unique in a way than Tickets to My Downfall. Neon Shark pulls from the darker and heavier sides of pop punk. It really reminds me of the album When Your Heart Stops Beating by Plus 44, which is Travis Barker and Mark Hoppus of Blink-182's side band. Um, but no need to fear, this is not just a ripoff of When Your Heart Stops Beating, because Trippie's drugged out, auto-tuned vocals, while not always being the greatest, really gives a unique spin to this album. It adds this layer of hazy nostalgia to it all. And I think this sound is perfectly captured on these two back-to-back tracks, Without You and Swimming, which I think are highlights of the album. They kind of really capture this kind of darker but also very nostalgic sound very well. And like I said, they're two highlights of the album. And a lot of this album has this kind of darker pop punk feel to it. But there's also a very big influence from early 2000s dark alt rock and new metal. A little bit of Breaking Benjamin, maybe a little POD. But the one I feel the most is Deftones. Not necessarily in the instrumentation, because I don't think, well, besides one track, I don't think this album ever gets quite that heavy, but more general vibe and feel of these songs and the kind of emotions that come with them. One of the songs I feel this most on is another highlight on the album, Geronimo. And I think the reason it feels so much like Deftones is probably because Chino, the lead singer of Deftones, has vocals on this track. He sings on it. And it works really well. I love his presence on this song, especially in the moments where his vocals overlap with Trippie's vocals. I think it just sounds really well, and it's a cool two worlds coming together. I really like Deftones. Um, and the instrumentation here, while not being as heavy off of something like White Pony, it is definitely composed and has similar chord progressions to Deftones or metal from that time. And I think it's really interesting. I think it works really well, probably a lot better than it should. And that kind of brings me into a little more of looking forward to the future, is that I really like this new wave of rappers coming out and making these rock albums, like MGK did last year, like Trippie Red did this year, and of course, Tickets to My Downfall was so successful. And I think if Neon Shark is even half as successful, we might be having this kind of rock revival that so many of us have been waiting for. But back to what I was saying about the Deftones influence. I mean, of course, you hear it on the track Leaders, which, has a direct interpolation of the opening track of White Pony, the best Deftones album, probably. Um, but the one I feel this the most, which might be my favorite track on this album, uh, is Frozen Ocean. Um, it's just an amazing song that blew me away when I heard it because you hear that bass line, you think, wow, that sounds like the old days. And then all of a sudden, you get hit in the face as hard as you really can by the old days when these crunchy, heavy nu metal guitars kick in. And this is as heavy as this album gets. And that mixed with the earlier mentioned kind of drugged out vocals that Trippie has, that gives this nostalgic haze to it. It just takes me right back to middle school, staying up way too late listening to bands like Linkin Park, Deftones, Drowning Pool, etc., etc. I mean, not all those bands from that era were great. Not all those bands I listened to at that time were great. But this song is great, and it gives me that nostalgic vibe. Like I said, it brings me right back to middle school, and it's just an absolute amazing moment on this album. And the drumming on this album is fucking amazing. This track, particularly low, is just mind blowing. Some of the best drumming I've heard in a while, to be honest. Probably this year. I mean, I haven't heard too much this year, but the drumming was really good on this track in specific. And if you don't believe me, just listen to it because Travis Barker is one of the all time great drummers, in my opinion, and he just absolutely kills it here. That on top of lyrics like having Trippie Red kind of lamenting, I feel broken and hopeless. How could you not love this song? It's dark, it's heavy, it's edgy, and it's great. There are a couple other tracks I'd like to mention, one being opening track Hellbreaker, which is definitely the poppiest moment on this album, and I'm kind of a little cynical toward this track because I see it as kind of a cash grab. Um, like Trippie saw how good my ex's best friend did and thought, oh shit, I should get a song with MGK and Black Bear on it. That's exactly what he did. That being said, I still like this track. I still think it's a really good pop song, and I'm glad it's here. Even if it maybe kind of breaks how cohesive this album is in spots because it's so like different, but that goes out the windows later anyway. I think it's a good pop song. Another of the popular moments is Dreamer, which is a song I didn't really like at first. I thought it was mixed pretty poorly, and I still stand by that. And I think Trippie's vocals on this track aren't really the best. And despite that, they are mixed at the absolute forefront of the song. It's what you're supposed to be paying attention to. It's the focal point. There aren't really too many like heavy guitars or anything here. But it became really catchy, and the more I listen to this song, the more I like it. Just a good, catchy pop song. Um, and that's about all I have to mention for tracks I like. Of course, I like the other tracks I didn't mention um, on here. Like Red Sky has some cool lyrics. I like MGK's feature on Red Sky. Um, SeaWorld is fine. Um, and yeah, this album isn't without its flaws, though. The track "Female Shark," the lyrics on it are pretty cringe, champ. They're pretty bad, enough to turn me off from the song. She's such a freaky girl. She puts me in the craziest moods. I wouldn't mind handling you, freaky girl. Like I said, pretty cringe, champ. Pretty weird, champ. Uh, I'm not into it. Like I said, it's enough of a turn off from this song that it'll be a skip in the future. And the other song on here is closing track Drop Dead. Um or Dead Desert, I'm sorry. It's closing track Dead Desert featuring two people's names I'm not even trying to pronounce. It's bad. It's real bad. Some of the worst production I've ever heard, hands down. I think I could give a drum machine to my dog and she'd make a better beat than this. It's just not good. It's laughably bad. And of course, the terrible screaming. These people don't know how to scream correctly because they sound like children. And of course, the repeated chants of drop, dead, drop, dead get obnoxious fast. Generally, one of the worst things I've heard, to be honest. Like a pretty 0 out of 10 song. But I don't think that's enough to ruin this entire album for me because I really like a lot of what Trippie was doing here. I think this is a solid rock album, and I'm glad Travis is kind of at the helm of this new rock revival. I really hope more rappers kind of do this, and the albums turn out good, like they are right now. Because I see a future in this for rock music. Um, if people stop gatekeeping. Personally, I'm feeling an 8 minus out of 10 on Neon Shark by Trippie Red. Um, and I really recommend you go into this album with an open mind and give it a chance. If you're a rap fan, don't just automatically hate it because it's rock. And if you're a rock fan, don't automatically hate it because a rapper made it. You might just be surprised and end up really enjoying it if you go into it with an open mind. But that's just my thoughts on this album. One of the better albums I've heard this year. I've only heard a handful so far, but I don't know. I really liked it. What do you guys think about Neon Shark by Trippie Redd? Let me know in the comments below. I didn't listen to Pegasus, the album that came out last year. This is supposed to be like a companion piece, I guess. But that album's like 40 tracks, and I don't have time for that. Um, but on this part itself, the Neon Shark part, I'm feeling 8 minus out of 10. So I will see you all next time.